Okie dokie. Hello, hello. So, couple updates. First of all, as you can see, my chair over there is not on the ground. So, I'll be standing up for the foreseeable future in attempts of increasing my productivity because I don't know, me sitting down does not really get a lot of work done, and hence why I'm standing up. But today, this is going to be a quick one, or at least I hope it'll be a quick one because I just hope it'll be a quick one. But I wanted to talk about confidence and how to build it and why you don't necessarily need to have as much, I guess, proof or evidence of it before you have the confidence, right? Now, why am I talking about confidence? So I went out with my buddy today, and we were talking about he was talking about relationship advice, casual guy talk, and he mentioned how in his perspective he thought that he doesn't know why I struggled with like a lack of confidence, right? You know, given given my features, given the person he believed me to be, right? And I responded like, oh, it is what it is, blah 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 blah. But he gave me five questions, right? He asked me five questions, and I answered them. I'll tell you the questions after, and then, or I'll tell you the questions, and he answered the questions himself, and kind of highlighted to me the difference between the confidence levels between us. So the five questions he asked me, I don't know if I should keep this at the end to make it like you have to watch until the end until you get the cool content. But the five questions he asked me were: one, do you think you're interesting? Two, do you think you're good looking? Three, do you think you're smart? Four, do you think you're jacked? And five, do you think, ooh, I can never remember the fifth one. I can't really remember the fifth one. I'll come back to it when I remember it. But along those lines, right? Smart, interesting. Oh, five was funny, right? Do you think you're funny? Right? And he answers those questions, right? And for each one of those questions, I kind of gave a roundabout answer, like, I think I look maybe better than the average person, but I'm not like that jacked, or I might be for the smart one, I just straight up said I'm not smart. That one might actually be true. But the funny one, I said I can make people laugh kind of sometimes, I think, and I was like, oh, I look a little, I don't look like, I think I look average, right? And it was interesting because when he answered the question, he was very much like, do you think you're funny? Yes. Do you think you're jacked? Yes. Do you think you're smart? Yes. Do you think you're cool? Yes. Do you think you're interesting? Yes. And it wasn't necessarily to be like, oh, like a comparison between him and I like that. I don't think that was the point. The point was is that he was very confident in his own traits and his own extending to the left, his own traits and his own appearances, and he wasn't afraid to kind of let people know, right? And I think that was quite important, right? But I think the more important part about, and the lesson that I kind of learned, and the lesson I kind of wanted to share with everyone here, was kind of how he justified it, right? Because you know the issue that I had, and the issue I think a lot of people have with confidence, is the fact that you don't really have a lot to kind of base it off of, right? For somebody to feel confident in going to the gym, that requires you to go to the gym. But if you are not confident enough to go to the gym, then that will limit you from going to the gym. It's paradoxical in its nature, right? You need confidence to do the thing that you want to get confidence for, right? And it's a bit more difficult to believe, have confidence in yourself, because you need to have that experience. But my friend really disarmed that question, and he really gave a great way of thinking about it. Is that, you know, I asked him, like, how are you so confident that you're funny? How are you so confident that you're smart? How are you so confident that you're an interesting person? Right? Like, what are you like? How can you believe this without, like, having concrete evidence? And then he gave the example of, you believe in God, right? And obviously, I don't want to make this like a religious or political landscape, but there are people, maybe you don't believe in God, and there are people who do believe in God. There are people who believe in, concrete, and there are people who believe in the abstract, the unknown. And the way I kind of looked at it is that sometimes things will happen and you clearly just do not have an explanation for them. But does that make the thing that they are any less meaningful? And when he said it like that to me, it really just flipped the switch. It was like, you don't actually need concrete evidence, right? Like, you can, it's not a crime to believe in yourself. It's not a crime to believe that you are something when the whole world may be telling you you're not. Now, it will be a crime when you believe that you are something that is putting somebody else at risk, but believing that you're funny, believing that you're smart, believing that you're interesting, believing that you're good looking isn't putting anyone at risk because you are believing in yourself. And I think to kind of wrap this entire point home, the important thing was like, if you're interested in somebody else, right, and you're talking to people who you believe in, who are attractive, and you want to kind of like get to know them, right? If you don't believe that you are these qualities, right, if you don't believe that you're funny, you don't believe you're interesting, you don't believe you're smart, you don't believe you're good looking, all of the above, right, if you don't believe these qualities in and of yourself, then how can you expect other people to believe in you, right? I think it's incredibly self-centered to really, I think it's more self-centered to expect other people to believe in qualities that you don't have, to for other people to give you the qualities that you don't have. Whereas if you truly believed in yourself and you truly believe that you have these qualities, and then you kind of act as if that way, you act that way, you act as if you're a funny person, you act as if you're an interesting person, you act as if you're a smart person, right? you know that level of confidence is going to be infectious to other people. And I think a lot of people realize that. Now, I don't mean to say like, don't act like you're like, don't believe that you're funny where you don't make any effort to make any jokes, you don't make any effort to be humorous, right? I think you do need a bit of a solid base, and you need to have that self-awareness to believe that, hey, maybe I'm just not fucking funny. Maybe I need to start reading some like, comedy books. But you don't need to be at the end of the journey to do that. You can be confident at the start, you can be confident at the middle, and you can be confident at the end. But it doesn't always have to be where you're done everything, because everything in life is a process, right? And to expect you can only reap the rewards when you're done the process is to deprive yourself of the best part, because the process is the most interesting part, right? Improving yourself, learning these new skills, that is what life is all about at the end of the day. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I thought that was really cool. And my friend he wanted to be included in one of the videos. So if you're watching this, shout out. I'm not gonna shout out his name, obviously, but you know who you are. Anyways, I got you on the next one.